All right, welcome to the web news. This one is going to be a little bit maybe somber, probably somber, pretty somber. What do want to point out is that we will be talking a little bit negatively, but at the end of the day, this is just our opinion, and that opinion can change pretty rapidly. For me, like I've said a million times, my opinion on AI goes like this, like up and down. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing like an up and down motion on a constant basis where I'm either like happy with it, hate it, happy with it, hate it. And it's same with this opinion actually that I have. And the opinion is I think it's pretty much over for junior developers. Like I do think that we're in a state where we might be like there's still going to be people hired. I don't want to say like no one's going to get hired. There's still, companies are still going to be hiring new developers out of college, but that is on a steady decline for the last couple years, I believe. And I don't think it's ever going to go back up is what I'm trying to say. Like I think it'll continue to decline over the next 5 to 10 years. That part, like the junior developer being hired part. So getting a job out of college, in my opinion, is going to become harder and harder for computer science majors. And the other part of this that I do want to talk about is the fact that our advice from before was like create a portfolio, you know what I mean? Like that was a big part of the advice that I had before. Like prove that you can build. In my opinion, that part is also starting to get thrown out the window due to what AI is capable of. Like if I'm personally in the process of hiring developers right now, right? When I look at someone's resume portfolio, I almost look at it with like a raised eyebrow now all the time, because like if they have cool apps in their portfolio, I'm like, well, how much of this was built by AI? Does it matter that it was built by AI? Maybe not. So a lot of times like that won't matter to me, but it's starting to become like not that impressive to have a sophisticated application built end to end on a portfolio. What I look for now more than anything is years of experience, unfortunately, which again, that doesn't bode well for junior developers, and what their experience is in. Or like, what have they worked in? Have they worked in larger teams? Have they worked in small teams? Because sometimes I'm looking for a person that's working in small teams versus larger team. Have they done, more sophisticated infrastructure stuff, like the hard stuff? There's hard things in web development and in regular development that aren't really AI solvable right now. A lot of integration work, a lot of really edge casey things like Shopify, really, really complicated Stripe integrations are kind of still not very well solved by AI, and actually can make things a lot worse if you don't know what you're doing. So that's kind of the overview. I don't want to go too deep, and I want to let Matt kind of talk about this a little bit, and then I'll give a little bit more detail. But overall, the real question that I have for you, Matt, like, have you noticed any difference? I know you're not super in this web development space all the time, but it's starting to get a little bit bleak out there.
I've started. Probably like as of like a year, 2 years ago. Like I use TikTok on occasion, and I do see like kind of the meme is like, oh, like comp sci majors, like take a look at this career fair, and there's like a lineup around the building and stuff. And sometimes it's real footage of people in a big old line. Have I confirmed if that's actually a job fair and stuff? No, like I'm not a journalist, so I haven't done like my due diligence, but I see that as sort of the meme, and I definitely see people, that have either generated graphics or whatever, where it's kind of like a cartoon of people being wrapped, like the lineup is like wrapping around the building up a skyscraper and everything, just to get like a low paying comp side job. And so generally like that's kind of where I see that, in TikTok. And TikTok is definitely in the zeitgeist. The stuff that's on TikTok can be quite popular, and there's lots of likes and lots of comments, lots of shares on these particular videos oftentimes. And so in terms of like seeing it in the zeitgeist, like yeah, like I'm not trying to be hired as a junior developer, and so like I'm not seeing it firsthand, but definitely see it. The very first thing that came to mind though, Mike, when you were mentioning, hey, I see this fancy portfolio and I think nothing of it. My very first thing that came to mind was the age old, the teacher always says like, show your work. Like, is this a thing where they just need to show their work somehow, where they record them doing it a bit or something? Like, is there anything that they could do where it says like, hey, this is, an explanation of how I did it or anything?
It's a good
Because
it's a good question, but I don't know, because I don't know how much. how much value there is, even if they do show their work that they can do this custom. So there might be value now in like being able to use the AI tools more efficiently. That might be where we start to see differentiators, especially on the junior developer side. Like if a junior developer learns enough development that they can prompt properly and go really quickly, right? Like maybe it's not like one or two projects that they show like 10 projects.
Sure.
Maybe that will be something that stands out.
Well, let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this though. So my question there is what are you looking for?
That's a good question.
Because what I'm a little bit what I'm questioning now is that's like I don't like are you looking for them to use AI or are you looking for them to not use AI? Like immediately off the top of my head, I'm kind of thinking of okay, like 5 projects and they just tell you, it's almost like a blog where they literally just like have it tagged as this one was built with AI, this one was built custom, things like that. Cause like you're saying maybe 10, 20, like 10 projects, 20 projects. We're just starting to enter the silly realm
Yeah.
of like to get a job, do like 4,000 hours of free labor, and I get, the whole, I'm sure there's someone out there that's like shaking their fist and is saying like, yeah, but like I did that. And look how much work things is and or things are and things. But we're talking to a lot of people that are realistically going through night school, learning on their own pace. Maybe not even night school. They're going through Scrimba or Free Code Camp or enter in random boot camp or other coding school or YouTube channel, like watching a course on YouTube. And so you can say, oh, figure it out and get it done, but it's not feasible for some people if it's like yeah make 20 projects and then hope. I mean, it's just unfortunately that's just not it's not going to work for some people.
So I think it's a very good question that you're asking. What am I looking for? So partly the reason that I'm asking for more years of experience is because I'm not looking for a junior developer. So that's kind of like, it's putting junior developers at a disadvantage right off the bat. But what I'm looking for in those roles is someone that has shipped products, someone that has worked with teams, someone that has done the hard integration stuff, right? Like I know that they can figure out the harder, complicated debugging things that are going to come up even when you are vibe coding. But for a junior developer, right? Right now, if I was hiring for a junior developer, I think you're onto something in the sense of like, I think I would be looking for someone that can, again, probably prompt pretty well. I can show that they use the tools properly. Something that I might even do is have them analyze a code base and do something with that code base using AI. Like if I do either a live coding section of the interview or a take home, it probably won't be like, hey, write this code without AI. It'll be like, hey, use any tool available to do this thing that I need you to do with this code, and see if they can, overcome the challenges that could be presented. So like I might throw just a more complicated project at them with the intention of them using the AI to make it easier and see if they can
So
do that.
like as a take home test or have you hired this person?
No, as a take home, either as a take home or as during an interview. Like what I don't like to do in interviews is ask people to code. What I do like to do in interviews is ask people to analyze code and come up with like certain, analysis based on what they see in the code base, because that's hard. Like writing code is also hard, and I think a lot of that is also kind of like overwhelmingly hard because like you're under pressure with the person looking at you as you're writing. I think analyzing code is a little bit easier if you know what you're doing, because it's already written, it's hopefully documented, and if you can use AI, you can get it to summarize things here and there as well and ask it certain parts of about certain parts. But what I'd like to see is how they prompt, like what questions they ask, right? Like if I give them a task, or if I give them like, hey, find this in the code base, how do they find it? What, like, do they grep? Do they go manually, look line by line? Do they ask the AI for a specific part of that code? Do they just ask my question that I've asked them into AI? Like, I'll probably make sure that that's not doable if I'm going to ask them a question. But like, what's their process of using the tools available to them? Because that's really what they're going to be doing on the job, right? So I don't know, like maybe that's okay. But the other part that I do want to talk about here is that regardless of their skills with the AI, their skills with coding, right? A junior developer inherently won't have a lot of skills in all the other stuff. And all the other stuff is, again, like I said, the hard integration stuff, the difficult debugging, the process, like we're learning how the process of development works in a team, right? Every team is different, but the process that you like learning the process is the same, right? Like once you learn the process 3-4 times for 3-4 different development teams, you know how to approach the next one. If you're fresh and you've never done that before, that part's difficult. That part takes time, right? It's not even the coding part. So there's a lot of parts in the junior developer's life cycle, like in their onboarding and in their first 2 to 3 years, that they need a lot of handholding regardless of AI. And that's where I think a lot of these decisions are going to be made, where you're going to ask the senior developers, like, what would you rather have? Would you rather have 2 juniors or just continue using Cursor with AI enabled? And the reality is, for a lot of seniors, unless they're thinking ahead, unless they're like, they're actually like logically thinking like, oh, what's going to happen in 3 years when I leave, or what's going to happen in 5 years when I leave. If they're just thinking about what they need to do now, they're going to pick the AI side of things. Now, the argument can be made against that in the sense that like that has always been the case. Without AI, you always had the situation where adding a junior is never going to accelerate your workflow. It's only going to slow you down for the first little while they're onboarding.
Of course, I mean,
Yeah,
naturally, right?
naturally. So like this doesn't really change things. The only thing that it changes is the fact that they've accelerated their workflow quite a bit already. And these AI tools can do the job of a lot of junior developers that you would offboard onto them, right? Like changing little things in the code base, doing maintenance, writing documentation. All of that really is handled by AI nowadays. And so like you're adding a junior developer on top of that to learn your code base and for longevity purposes,
Well,
right?
I'll I'll
Almost
I'll
not to
say.
accelerate.
Well, like I was going to say, like the longevity of the industry, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
sorry, not
not
to
even
cut
the
you off. I don't
industry,
know if
the
you're.
longevity of the product. Like if we're talking about one specific product, like the longevity of like, again, like the developer probably has a certain amount of time that they want to be there, or like realistically, like maybe they're going to retire at some point, or half the team is going to retire at some point. So what's going to happen when half the team retires and no one's hiring juniors? That's the stuff that needs to be thought about a little bit, right? Which I don't know if it is right now.
Well, it certainly isn't. I mean, there's definitely going to be short-sightedness. Like we've already, like there's tons of people talking in the industry, and we've talked about it too. Is where a lot of places will have unrealistic deadlines. I mean, we're dealing with a potential like deadline thing right now, and like because we're quoting out a big project, and making sure that the deadline works for us and the client's a huge part of it. I mean, just straight up, right? Of course. And I mean, here's the thing: is like there's going to be companies out there that have internal dev teams that hand out unrealistic deadlines and kind of say, "Suck it up, do it." I mean, as somebody who like, if let's just pretend like I'm a person that is in one of those positions, and I'm here for money. At the end of the day, I'm here for money. I'm here to support my family. I'm not here to train someone that's under me. I'm not here to train somebody. If you're giving me an unrealistic deadline and I still want to get home for dinner sometimes, or, hopefully all the time, unfortunately, there needs to be cuts. And like, that's a really blunt way to look at it. And then you have to think about it this way, where it's like, like, again, if I'm in that position, I have to think about it like it is not my responsibility to ensure that someone else has the skills to do this. Like I'm trying to keep this product up to date. I'm trying to make new features. I'm trying to ship these things. I have a deadline, and so I need to keep going. These are age old things that have happened, not even in programming. Think about like I just watched a little mini video on a blue collar job where all the seniors were just ripping into the junior. And what ended up happening was it was like a piece of broken equipment that was causing the inefficiencies on the job site, and they hadn't noticed that something had broken. And then they blamed the broken equipment on the junior as well when the junior wasn't even using the broken equipment. And it's the mentality of what I just said. I want to get home for dinner. It is not my responsibility to help everybody. And effectively, I'm at that point, if I'm using that blue collar video, like F everybody else. If you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be here. You're stupid, and screw you. And that's really blunt, right? Now I'm not saying only blue collar does that. Clearly, Like there's going to be developers that do that too. And we see this, take it out of profession, like take it out of like a common profession, put it into golf. I know some people are professional golfers, but it's few and far between. Think about golf. There's people that are on the course. If anyone here is listening or watching, it's on the golf course. You see people that have been in the sport for years and years, 20 years. Oftentimes they're older, and they get super pissed when people are not doing the proper etiquette. And just little things like they're nitpicking and they're getting upset when people are a little slow and things. And there's limits to everything. And you're trying to teach the next generation, but they're just getting pissed off the whole time. And it makes golf not fun for the junior, for the guy who's new, for the rookie, right? And I mean, they can say, oh, like it's not my responsibility. They can take the exact same stance. But if we zoom that out and we think about it, it's like, does that person really like golf? The person who's being pretty rude and pretty mean? Typically the answer to that question is yes. Well, then it is kind of their responsibility to keep it going because generations need to take it on. Now, I'm not saying you need to take on everything. I'm not saying you need to become a trainer and you need to do this. And I understand that, you have a deadline and you don't care. And some people are not going to be the ones that care, but zoom that out a little bit. And, it is our, meaning almost like human responsibility, if you will, to do it. Who's going to do it? I don't know. Not everyone's going to do it. And a lot of people are going to try to pass that buck, right? Where we're like, I don't want to teach the junior dev. I don't want to teach that junior golfer. I don't want to teach that new welder or whatever, right? It's an age-old problem. And you and I, Mike, we've had a conversation recently in one of the episodes recently. I don't know if it's out yet, where code is kind of becoming like factory work in that there's so much demand for code that it's like we're not on an assembly line, but the people are like, we need this code done. We like, give me a feature, give me a feature, give me a feature, new feature, new feature. And that's kind of like factory work where it's like there's this continual, like you never reach the end of a project in many cases now. It's very much like new, more. Oh, you just did this really big project for us? Cool. Do one, make one tomorrow. Make one tomorrow, right? A never ending assembly line. And so we're having this issue in tech where we're reaching that point where there's so much need for software that we need things to be so efficient that the devs are obviously, they're not they're getting given unrealistic deadlines. And so nobody wants anything that's going to slow them down. And it's going to have an effect. And like humans are very, very proactive. We're very reactive. I mean, there's a lot of, for example, blue collar jobs right now that are getting paid like gangbusters. Like they're just welders, plumbers, all kinds of things. Why? Because the school system was like, at least here, was like, F all that. Don't become a carpenter. Don't become a plumber. Go be a white collar worker. Go work in an office. It's nice and clean. It's air conditioned. It's this, it's that. Right? Don't be any of these blue collar jobs. And now there's a shortage and now they're getting paid like gangbusters. And if this industry, like if we zoom into development, if we see people not get jobs, schools who are trying to sell courses, or just people online, influencers saying, the courses are not being offered in the schools as much, maybe. The influencers are saying, don't go into comp sci. What's going to happen? The exact same thing.
Probably.
If it's already a meme, right? Like,
this was my next and kind of final point is that the companies are making a bet right now. They're making a bet that they don't need more developers in the future because they think, or they're being told specifically, like they're legitimately being told. I want to say this very clearly. Anthropic, OpenAI, all of these AI companies are telling other companies that they're coming after software engineers. They're building a software engineer. They're telling them that. Like that's in plain English. The companies are making a bet that what they're saying is correct. And what they're doing is they're stopping the pipeline. So before, large companies like Google, Amazon, their pipelines would be that you have to teach the next generation. Like that was their mandate. So they would hire new junior developers knowing that they were going to slow down whoever they're mentored by. But the idea is that they constantly needed more developers to build the ever expanding amount of products that they have, right? Like they're constantly trying to make more products because that's the only way to grow in that industry, right? Like that's why they need to have this constant pipeline of growing developers. What they're being told now is that no, you don't need that. You need seasoned developers right now that can prompt AI to maintain and grow your product, so you can get a short-term productivity boost by not hiring junior developers, because in the next 3-4 years, while we're figuring out the next parts of AI and the next parts of this equation, we will figure out how to completely replace some of your developers from the
Right.
ground up. And so, well, while you're doing that, if you're making that bet, and the companies I believe are making this bet, right? Then yes, what's going to happen is a death spiral for especially new developers, and that if everything goes to plan, then sure, everything is great. Like for these companies, they're going to succeed because they'll have AI take over in 10 years when all of their developers retire, or 20 years, right? AI will take over if everything goes to plan. But if it does not go to plan, what's going to happen is we're going to not only have a shortage of developers, we're going to have a shortage of developers that can teach other developers. And that's exactly what you were saying about the blue collar thing, is like it wasn't only about the fact that we had a shortage of blue collar workers. We didn't have anyone to apprentice, like to be able to apprentice. So like we couldn't even get blue collar workers into the industry because there was no one that was teaching other blue collar workers under them enough to be able to actually like take on an apprentice.
So yeah, that's a fair point because
And
like I mean,
yeah,
it's a lot of hours to get through your apprenticeship, journeyman and all that stuff,
absolutely. And you
and
need to be good at teaching. Like you need to be good at mentoring. So the like how it works right now, or how it's worked for the last 10 years, is like you were taught how to mentor. Part of your mentoring was being taught how to mentor the next generation. That's how these companies worked. Like I know for sure that's how Amazon worked, because I've talked to a lot of people that work there. Right? So they're teaching you to be a better developer, they're also teaching you how to mentor the next developer that you're going to mentor, because everyone has to mentor there. That's part of their flow.
at least they're
What
teaching the freaking skills that they know
Yeah,
people are going to need.
exactly. And that's part of it. But now what we're seeing, and I've seen this mentioned, I've talked to other developers, is like people aren't being mentored. Like I mean, not being mentored, but people aren't mentoring right now because there's not enough developers to mentor that are being hired. So they're losing that skill set for the next generation. And that's going to continue to happen over the next several years, where you're just going to have less and less people that know how to mentor. So even when they become senior developers, if we all of a sudden have a need for new developers, it's going to be a longer ramp up, because sure, they're going to figure it out probably, but it's going to be harder. Like this pipeline that was worked on, like this mentoring pipeline that was worked on for years and years and years and has worked pretty damn well, was put in place for a reason, because mentoring is not easy, and
Right.
training up junior developers is not easy. So when we have to go back to that, if we ever have to go back to that, it's going to be a gong show. And you're right, like the people that are in the industry right now would probably benefit for a short while, because they're going to be in super high demand, because the people that know how to mentor are going to be like training pipelines and training teams on how to just mentor people, and training a bunch of mentees. Like they're not even going to be doing development, they're just going to be mentoring, if that becomes the case. But again, it's a path. It's a double path. We don't know which side it's going to be. Like again, the companies are making a bet that that's not going to happen. The companies are betting on the fact that what OpenAI, Cursor, and like what all these companies are saying is going to happen, where they just need less and less developers until they don't need any.
I mean, the sad reality, not to get political, but the sad reality is if there's a big old software shortage, then they'll just beg the government to make it all better by offering school incentives to put people through, programming things and fast tracking school courses and all kinds of garbage. And I mean, it works. I mean, we see this in other industries as well. Like right now, like I mean, as far as I understand it, they're promoting blue collar stuff, like the trades, specifically when I say blue collar, the trades, because there's a lack of people that can build houses and do the plumbing and do the wiring and stuff, because at least when I went through school, it was looked down on. And the mentality was kind of changing. Like it wasn't like people were like, you're an idiot if you want to be an electrician, but it was also like, yeah, but you're just gonna be an electrician. Well, let me tell you, if one of my plugs break, I don't know what the heck to do. Like, it's like, what do I do? I don't know. I wasn't mentored through that. I didn't go through that experience, you know, and so we need people to do that. The other thing is that as an entrepreneur, like, I get it. If you think that this skill is going the way, like, it's not like think about businesses back in the day. People maybe would commute to work on horseback, and so you would need like a person to run the stable. You know what I mean? Like maybe that was the consideration back in the day. But then eventually they didn't need the stable, and they didn't need the person looking after the horses in the stable. They didn't need the stable person, whatever they called themselves. The horse person. That's not what they called themselves. But the point of the matter is like, I get it. You know, they might say developers are a dying art and it's gone, and you know, it is not up to us to train the future generation. And if other places don't want to take the bet on our side, which is that AI will overtake developers, then somebody else will have to train the developers for us. And I get it as well. Like, I get it as an entrepreneur, because it's like, why would I invest all that money in something that I don't think is going to pan out? Another thing, blunt reality, you're there to, like, especially if it's a bigger company, there's the board of directors and all that. They're there to make money next quarter and then grow and then grow and then grow. If I make money for 10 years and I created a crisis, I made money for 10 years. I had a successful career. I retired in great standing. I wasn't quote unquote dishonorably discharged. I was honorably discharged, really. I left, I made money. Oh, I created a crisis in the background. Well, fight the nuance in the background, because like I'm already retired. And like, you know, that's the same thing as like the dev that wants to go home for dinner, right?
Mhm.
It's the same issue, because it's like, you know, at an individual level, like, I mean, when I'm making stuff, like we're coding a project, I'm not thinking about the next generation of developers. I'm thinking about how much work can I pump out.
Yeah, that's the reality. That's the I wouldn't say I don't know if it's unfortunate reality. It's somewhat of an unfortunate reality, but yeah, that's
It's
what we're
certainly
competing
part of
with.
it.
Yeah, it's certainly part of it, 100%. But yeah, I think that's it for this topic. Hopefully not too somber. I do think that there's some light at the end of the tunnel in the sense of like, learn how to use the AI tools, differentiate yourself that way. The other our other part of it piece of advice of like just networking really well is still very valid. Like, you could still
Oh,
find jobs
totally.
in that way, but it is going to be a harder time moving forward, in my opinion, no matter what we do. Like, it is going to be a harder time for junior developers, maybe even senior developers down the line too. But like, for now, at least, junior developers are definitely the ones being affected most.
I think that's it. That's the web news.
That's
Mike, take us out. Even though we don't have an informal intro,
There's
you did the
nothing else.
intro.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.